Not so long ago, poverty was the norm. Poverty was the rule, not the exception. It was poverty everywhere. Depends on the country that you live in, but for instance, here, some three generations ago, in the time of my grandparents, poverty was a thing. There was a lot of people begging for food, door to door, especially old people that couldn't work anymore. Their family couldn't take care of them either. They had no other choice but to beg from door to door. Those who could work, they would sleep on the barn, become indented servants. Yes, they become, out of their own will, an indented servant in exchange for a plate at the table. They couldn't care less about money or a paycheck or any of that sort. They just wanted a roof and food, and they would work in exchange. This was reality 3, 4 generations ago in this country. Other places, I don't know, 150 years ago, 200 years ago, what changed? What allowed people to escape poverty? Well, it wasn't the Industrial Revolution, it wasn't the world wars, it was capitalism. Capitalism, free markets, is what allowed people to arise from below, from poverty, into owning a property, into owning and having a salary. This country, for instance, everybody was so happy that they could have property, they started building houses, huge houses, monuments. They were so eager to have houses. Now they're all empty, because people stopped, having children and everything. And they built houses that could, have houses that could house 10 people, three families. And now they're empty, you know. But anyway, because everybody was so eager to do it, it was their goal in life. You don't know what it is to go about living on rented places, not having a place of your own, pay rent, and if you don't have rent to pay, then you have to pay otherwise with something else. Like in the feudal system, you had to work and give all the effort of your work to the landlord. Well, you would have a roof over your head and food on the table, but you wouldn't escape that situation. Oh no. The system would keep you in that situation. And it was with capitalism and free markets that we escaped that system. And I suspect that's where we are going to return in the near future, all because of globalization. In this part of the world, the main objective, the main obsession, the main value that trumps everything else is objects and the acquisition of objects. This is the traditional behavior of peoples who was born in glaciated areas. The odds are always against you. You have to count and measure every grain to survive winter, long winters, right? That molded people's values. If you take a person from a glaciated area and put it in an abundance area, they will become like black hole. They will start sucking everything. They will never have enough. They want everything for themselves and less for everybody else. Ask people who experienced this during, I don't know, colonialism and imperialism. The locals was like, dude, there's enough for everybody. Calm down. but they just had this obsession of objects, the acquisition of objects, resources. And they wanted everything for themselves and less for everybody else. It's almost like they were traumatized by nature. But that's how they survived the long winters in glaciated areas. Yeah. There's also in those places that you'll find more strict laws and rules and regulations. Yeah. Anyway, when the elite of these areas, was presented with globalization, they said, "Oh yes, let's go. That means more for me. Who cares about everybody else?" Now, symptoms of globalization. So, one of the first symptoms was deindustrialization. You don't need industry anymore because the elite investments are abroad, right? So, factories start closing, people become unemployed, prices start going up, like energy prices, um, inflation. Then, of course, population doesn't have, you know, trust in the future. They start postponing. They start postponing. Having a family. Now you have 30-year-old, 40-year-old people living still with their parents, and they don't want a family of their own. Of course, they can hardly survive on their own. Um, at the same time, there's these weird religions being implemented, and these are all psychological operations. They're all smoke screens to bamboozle the idiots, a sleight of hand so they don't notice what's going on behind the scenes, like the climate or woke or whatever. And with these religions, like in the past, they can impose taxation on CO2 or whatever, or in meat products. That's, similar to what the popes used to do in the past with the religion and everything. They also start banning all sorts of fracking, extraction of minerals, of coal, of gas from the earth. They say it's not good for nature. And overall, there's this lack of and loss of respect for culture, for its people, and these are all symptoms of the globalization. Now, what's going to be the result of this? Richer are going to become richer, right? And the poor and middle class and lower class, they are going to become like in the past, the poor classes. They're going to, no doubt, own nothing and be happy, like in the past, beneath the poverty line, fighting each other for scraps, while the elites own everything. They also had to open the borders. Why? Because they just didn't have enough people to clean toilets and keep things clean and do maintenance like road maintenance and etc. Because they find themselves with an overeducated population that just don't want to do those jobs because they kind of forced everybody to go to college. Yes, they did forced. People think, oh no, it's an option. No, it isn't an option. Out here in this country, I think it's 12 years that you have to be in school or something like that. They won't allow you a driver's license if you don't go through the whole indoctrination. And at the same time, you have to have the needlecraft up to date. Otherwise, they won't allow you either. I mean, It's crazy. Anyway, the needlecraft is another operation, another psychological operation with corporatism, united with corporatism, and it's just incredible how it's still, because it's a religion, you have to be a believer in these things, because when you are in the state of belief, in that state of you can't see the flaws, you're unable to see the flaws, and if you start seeing the flaws, then you are excluded from, shamed and excluded, cut off from the pay, cut off from all of those were years that you studied in the system. Almost nobody is going to turn their backs. Well, some do, like during the fake lockdown, the fake down, there was lots of professionals that preferred to be, shamed and removed of their licenses instead of playing along with the madness. Anyway, so I suspect the future in the next generations is going to be poverty, like it used to be before free markets and capitalism. I think, governments or private corporations should have no power over economy. It should be the client, the customer that decides, not governments or private corporations. Those are greedy, and they end up messing up everything because of their greed, you know. So anyway,